Public Act
I
100-640
apologize for my
100-640 amends the Open Meetings Act to expressly authorize public bodies to meet remotely in certain circumstances without the otherwise required quorum present at the meeting place. This new law requires that the head of the public body determine that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the disaster. So Andrew, as the committee chair, I'll ask you to make that determination once the meeting is called to order. At least one member of the public body or the chief administrative officer or the chief legal officer must be physically present at the meeting place unless it isn't feasible to do so because of the disaster. So I'm here at the library this morning. We should do a roll call vote after the meeting is called to order, and all votes will be by roll call. As with all open meetings, we provide space for public comments in accordance with the law. For the purposes of this virtual meeting, we've asked for the public to submit their comments via email or voice message, and I will read them aloud at the appropriate time. This meeting will be recorded and will be available on the library's website for 30 days and will be archived in our administrative offices thereafter. All right, all yours, Andrew.
All right, thank you, Michaela. I'd like to call this meeting of the Aurora Public Library District Building and Grounds Committee to order at 9:14 a.m. on November 11th, 2020. All right, the Aurora Public Library District Building and Grounds Committee finds in-person meeting is not practical or prudent at this time because of the ongoing public health emergency, and believes it is in the library's best interest to hold a virtual meeting to perform our essential business. Kim, please call the roll.
Dee Basili,
yes.
Jeff Butler,
Here.
John Savage,
Here.
Andrew Smith.
Here. All right. Regarding the approval of the March 2nd, 2020 meeting, at this time, are there any changes to those minutes? I see none being offered. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2020 meeting of the Finance Committee?
Motion to approve.
The second,
All right, Kim, please call the roll.
Dee Basili,
yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
John Savage,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, now we are on to new business. Heather, would you like to discuss the Bookmobile vendor recommendation?
I would, and Jessica and I have a presentation, so let me pull that up. Okay, can everybody see that all right?
Yes.
Okay. So Jessica and I this morning are bringing to you a recommendation for replacing our existing Bookmobile. The library's had a Bookmobile since the mid-50s, and we perform, I would say, essential service across the community with this vehicle. It's definitely reaching the end of life. It's had a lot of off-road days over the past couple of years due to various mechanical issues. We had it rewrapped, so it looks pretty good, but the mechanicals are starting to fade out. So we're looking at a new Bookmobile because doing so will support the library's mission to continue meeting community members where they are, provide on-site services to schools, increase access to technology, and we'll be able to do that with improved fuel efficiency, more flexibility, an expanded floor plan, and more comfort and accessibility for both staff and customers on the Bookmobile. So we wrote an RFP a few months ago. We spent a lot of time thinking about what we were looking for and trying to make that as clear as we could in that response or that RFP. And we got our responses back about 6 weeks ago and have been evaluating those since. Our evaluation team included me as Director of Neighborhood Services, Jessica Cantorero, our Outreach Services Manager, Michael Proct, who's one of our full-time drivers, and Mike Buss, who is one of our other full-time drivers. Laura Gartman, our Outreach Services Specialist, and I'm just going to mention that she has been on every bookmobile this library has ever owned, so she has kind of a unique viewpoint. Jeff Desjardins, our Facilities Manager, Joel Becker, one of our maintenance staff, and Jonathan Hauser, our IT Manager. So I'm going to let Jessica take it away next to talk about those proposals and how we did evaluation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today. The timing of this proposal is actually perfect because a couple weeks ago, the outreach team attended a conference that's held annually every October. It's the Association of Bookmobile and Outreach Services. And each of these vendors that you see here on the screen, Farber, Matthews, LDV, and Summit, presented about 1 hour presentations about their offerings. And since we have received bids from all 4 companies, it was very insightful to attend those presentations. One of the things that was the most interesting to me was a presentation called Procuring an Outreach Vehicle. And the point was that you don't morph your service model to meet the specifications of an existing vehicle. You build your vehicle to meet your service needs. So Heather and I in this evaluation team have spent a lot of time looking at evaluation criteria and thinking about our service needs and our model and who we serve. On any given day, we can serve up to 300 students plus a community stop. So that's a lot of people filtering through this bookmobile. And we need a little more space. We need a little more flexibility. And we also wanted to think about the environmental impacts, our customers, comfort, accessibility, and just overall flexibility of the vehicle, because we didn't foresee, the current pandemic, and we don't know what the next 10, 15 years will hold. So we need to have some flexibility in the design of this new vehicle. We came up with a list of questions, which are on the next slide, and we went through each bid line by line. It was a process that took up the whole dining room table for several weeks. It was our RFP and each bid and literally going through and saying, okay, this is what our RFP wanted to evaluate. Did this bid meet that criteria? So I'm not going to share those documents. You can imagine they were quite lengthy. Each bid was upwards of 100 pages. So I'm going to give you an abbreviated version. The first question that we asked as a team was, does the RFP or the bid address reducing or eliminating engine and or generator noise and emissions? Again, thinking about the environmental impact. Overall, the bid that we received from Farber was quite incomplete. So I'm not going to mention them a whole lot. It's a lot of the information that they provided came from information anybody could find on a website. It was kind of just thrown together without a lot of, actually there were no specifications provided. All we received was a price and an anticipated delivery date. So when we think about the environmental impact, Matthews had the most complete bid in that respect. They did discuss how an air cleaner would be provided and to provide adequate engine aspiration and maximum insulation of the generator compartment to try to eliminate the heat, the noise, and the fumes that might seep into the coach area. LDV did mention in their bid that they would route the diesel generator vent to the street side of the vehicle, but the other proposals did not address this criteria. The next thing we looked at was digital media access. Of course, this is something that's very important now and will become even more important in the future. We don't know how technology is going to evolve, so we need to be flexible in this regard. One thing that we included in our RFP was having an interior and exterior high definition television for story times, various broadcasts, and Matthew's bid did include a 60-inch television in an external compartment and a 28-inch high definition television mounted on the inside of the vehicle. The key thing here with digital media access is that Matthews included a 43-inch LED digital signage that would go along the back of the vehicle. We think this is really important because when we looked at our community survey in 2016, when library users were asked why they don't visit the Bookmobile, they stated three main reasons. They thought it was just for children, they didn't know it existed, or they didn't know the schedule. So having this digital readout board on the back, it would be programmed and it would display the stops just like public transportation. It would save ink and paper from continuously printing banners for upcoming library events, which also reduces the environmental impact. And again, Matthews was the only vendor that included this digital readout board in their bid. We also looked at, of course, interior comfort. We live in, extreme climates here in the Midwest. Laura Gartman pointed out that her feet are always cold. So insulation is key in this new vehicle. The Matthews bid will include 2 inches of insulation, expanded polystyrene in the floor, and 3 inches of insulation in the roof. Their thermostats also have 3 different zones that can be controlled. Again, the other bids did not mention addressing this at all. Anticipated delivery dates were very similar. They all ranged between 9 to 12 months, which is pretty much the standard right now. Of course, with the pandemic, delays could happen in terms of receiving materials, but in terms of a general timeline, anywhere between 10 to 12 months is expected, and they all fell within that range. We looked at the completeness of each proposal. And here there are several key points that I'd like to point out. Again, as I mentioned, Farber's bid was very incomplete. Matthews was the most complete. And in between LDV and Summit, this is where the line by line assessment was really important. LDV's was missing several key items that we felt were important in this new Bookmobile. A collision avoidance system was lacking, a backup camera, the digital readout board, removable customer workstations, a book drop, the defibrillator with a mount, and a security alarm system. Summit's was also missing some key items: a driver door, the pull-out steps, a backup camera, a collision avoidance system, the digital readout board, and a spare tire with wheel were all missing from their bid. As I mentioned, Matthews included everything that we asked. When we look at vendor qualifications, all 4 of these companies that submitted bids are well known as Bookmobile upfitters. They've been in business a long time. However, Matthews has been in business for 50 years. They have everything under one roof, and they're very forward thinking in terms of new technologies, really adapting to the current climate. Also, LDV and Summit, while they do build specialty vehicles and they're very good at what they do, only about 10% of their business is bookmobiles. About 70% is mobile medical. And they specialize in smaller vehicles, similar to like a Mercedes Sprinter van, a Ford Transit. So Matthews really has a lot more specialty in these larger 41 foot coach style bookmobiles. Of course, we looked at, did the vendor understand what it was that we wanted? We felt that most of the proposals, with the exception of Farber, did understand what we were looking for. But of course, we had to look at, did they include that in their bid? And as I mentioned, Matthews did on all levels. Then Heather and I called former clients and asked several questions. I won't go through all of the details, but some of the feedback we received came from Michigan, which has climate similar to ours. There were 2 libraries in North Carolina and 1 in Pennsylvania. All received vehicles about the size of what we were looking for. And overall, they were very happy with their current vehicles that were built by Matthews. We heard everything from, it was a very pleasant experience. They received regular communication and updates from the team. A great experience. They were impressed by the knowledge of the staff who trained the drivers upon delivery of the vehicle. We asked, would they go back and work with this company again? They said they would go straight back. We got exactly what we wanted. They called Matthews the most engaged, interested, trustworthy, and everything was custom designed in one facility. One of the libraries in Pennsylvania is actually a traveling library. They don't have any main branches. So their bookmobile is their library, and they emphasized that there couldn't be any wasted space in this vehicle. They said if they asked Matthews, can we do this? The reply was always, we'll figure out a way. They also said that everything was very transparent during the process. So really excellent feedback, for us to have. Next slide, please. So here are some interior images that we received. Of course, everything really is customized based, on materials and what we need. And those are discussions that we have, after a vendor is selected and the bid is awarded. What I want to point out from these interior images, though, is just the versatility of the workspace. It looks to be in the back like these workspaces for customers are built in. What we would like is to have a flexible option here, maybe something that folds down. So that when we're at a busy school, it could be, removed. Maybe when we're at a longer community stop, customers could come in, set up their laptop, maybe print a few things from our printer, use our free Wi-Fi. Again, the lighting, just the interior width is greater than what we have. Of course, driver comfort and everything, of course, with the times. Next slide. Okay, this shows a picture of the shelving. This is Acor aluminum shelving, which is what we included in our RFP. It's very versatile. These can be configured so many different ways to adapt. Our wooden shelving, while it is beautiful, I can give you an example of how, yes, it has a different look to it, but it's less versatile. When we had the magazine racks out, all of our graphic novels were kind of close to the floor, and students love graphic novels. So when we get a class of 25 to 30 students in there, they'd all kind of be like tripping over each other and trying to push each other out of the way to get to the bottom shelves where these graphic novels were. Having this aluminum shelving would definitely solve those problems, because we can just snap these in and out. We can get different colors. You see all white here, but they're available in 200 different colors. So you could even get, different colors for each genre if you wanted. We also would have the flexibility to put some book carts that would roll out onto the wheelchair lift. Those could, of course, be stocked appropriately for whatever population we are serving at the time, whether it's seniors, students, etc. Next slide. Okay, so when we look at costs, we put this slide last for a reason, and really the evaluation team tried not to factor this into our decision making. We really want to make sure that we're selecting a vehicle that meets our needs, not based on what the price is. But there are a few things that I do want to point out here. As I mentioned, with the items that were missing from each bid, LDV's bid came in about $5,000 less than Matthews. However, when you look at like their slide out option was considerably more. So their total bid would actually come in higher because the slide out option is something that we want to consider. We were also missing several key pieces, to purchase these, backup cameras and the collision avoidance system, and to add these removable customer workstations. Those all have a cost that were not factored into these prices. Same with Summit, adding a driver door, I would imagine, if it's even possible with the vehicle that they submitted, it's going to cost money. So I want you to take that into consideration. Farber's bid was considerably lower, but again, we don't even really understand what it was they were going to provide. And that concerned us because of just the care that was given to the bid. Makes me wonder what kind of vehicle we might get. So in that respect, I don't want to just say, well, the lowest bid is what we go with. If it doesn't meet our needs. Let's see, there is a slide out option here in this image that you can see. And of course, the wheelchair lift is something we would definitely need. So our recommendation from the team, based on these assessment of all of the bids, we recommend working with Matthews Specialty Vehicles to build this new Bookmobile. Their proposal was the most complete. They have an excellent reputation in the industry. They built our current Bookmobile, so we do have a working relationship with them. The technology that they came up with was the most forward thinking. They also said that they would include 3D renderings to help us during this process of, designing the interior, which I think will really help us see how that will meet our customers' needs. And they had the most spacious and flexible floor plan. For the cost, their vehicle is 3 feet longer than the other two bids, LDVs and Summit. So we're getting more for our money as well. And by having a front engine coach, it opens up a lot of room on the interior and the pull-out steps. Steps aren't cutting into the interior of the vehicle, a lot more space for customers to travel through safely and browse comfortably. So we did price a few options. The slide out compartment we think would be fantastic for story times, days when maybe we have an event outside and the weather doesn't cooperate. We did want to consider the slide out option. Heather wants her bubble machine. We just thought it would be fun. I think it was like around $400, and we wouldn't even necessarily need to purchase the machine itself right now. We just need to make sure that the mount is included. But that would be fun for parades, special events, of course, once we get out of a pandemic situation. And we also wanted to take advantage of extended warranties. Matthews did include a 5-year extended warranty option with unlimited miles for about $4,000. So if we added in all of those options, including marketing images that we can use for fundraising materials, we're looking at about $465,000 total. And I think that was our last slide, right, Heather?
Last slide, yep.
Okay, so we are happy to answer your questions. We also have Mike Proct here, one of our full-time drivers, if you have more technical questions that we're not able to answer.
And I am watching chat. If any of you would rather use chat to ask the question, I'm keeping an eye on that.
Thank you. That was great. I had a couple questions. That extended warranty, is that 4,000 total? Or is that 4,000 a year?
4,000 total, I think, right, Jessica? And it was
that is my understanding.
Extended warranty. It wouldn't last forever. It had a definite end date.
Right. The exact price was $4,197 for 5 years.
And to go along with that, have we, I've examined that warranty to make sure it's sufficient, and what do we think other potential costs could be outside of that obviously won't be anything like our current vehicle, at least for 20 years, but what are we thinking there?
As far as maintenance, you mean?
Would that be a question for Mike?
Yeah, that would be a good question for Mike.
So are you referring to like maintenance costs or?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen extended warranties, and there's always some fine print that things aren't covered and whatnot. I mean, just, what do we think our out of pocket will be on an annualized basis to maintain this?
That's going to probably cost, we do a yearly where we do all the fuel filters and oil change, all the fluid changes. And then we have the generator maintenance, which is roughly every 250 hours, and usually spend about a year. It's around, I think, $3,200 total for everything. And on the generator, every 1,000 hours, they completely tear it down. Now, I don't know if that's going to change with this newer generator, but you're usually around that range for the maintenance itself, and that covers everything.
Okay.
Okay, this is Dee Basili. I have a question also regarding the maintenance. Before I know the city would do our maintenance, who would be doing our maintenance now that we've, for the future?
We can take that local. Kaufman truck right down the road. They can handle all the regular maintenance, the oil changes and things like that. And then KD Repair does the generator as well, all the maintenance on that. As far as any warranty issues, if there are any that come up, we don't need to take it obviously back out to Matthews in North Carolina. There's a dealer about an hour away that can take care of if there are any warranty problems. So everything else is local.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. Compare the size of the one you guys are recommending to the one that we have now. Is it substantially larger? Is it about the same size?
No, it's about the same size, just a slightly larger. I mean, like about a foot, 10 inches to a foot. But the interior is much longer because we have a rear engine in this one that we have now. The one that Matthews is the Coach has a front engine. So it gives you a lot more room lengthwise on the inside, even though the outside is pretty much the same. And they're actually quite a bit wider because of the way now that the shelves are fastened and the insulation. They don't have to make the walls quite as thick, although the insulation is even better. So there's a lot more room, even though the outside is pretty much the same.
So bigger on the inside?
Bigger on the inside, yes, substantially.
Also, the other thing that stands out to me when I look at those vehicles, they're taller off the ground, and that'll be different for us and for our customers. Our current Bookmobile was built down kind of, so we have to build around the wheel wells. These new platforms, they all build kind of over the wheels, so you have that full flat floor plan to work with.
Oh, nice.
You could throw a party on the new Bookmobile.
Is there going to be
No,
one
no.
seat up front, or is there 2 seats up front?
We asked
Two
for 3 seats so that we can have 3 staff go on stops. So we'll have 2 up front and then 1 in the back.
Now, is the thought with the current Bookmobile that we sell that, or what are we thinking there?
I'll take that one. We have not really discussed it. We have a lot of options. We could conceivably sell it. We could keep it and use it for limited mobile service. We could keep it and potentially park it permanently somewhere as a little outpost. We could donate it. We have some options, but we do have to keep in mind the how old it is, and the maintenance issues and things like that. That'll impact what we decide to do with it. The good news is we don't really have to decide right away. We have about a year build time, to have those conversations, I would imagine, with this committee.
Right. Be interesting to get an appraisal, what they think that might be worth.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Thank you.
And what was the projected timeline? 9 to 12 months?
Yep, which is
That's
pretty
correct.
typical.
Okay. When would the renderings be available?
We'll have a planning process, we'll be meeting with them to refine what those interior details are going to be like. So it might be a couple of months. But I don't think it would take very long. They included some of their sort of standard plans. They clearly already thought about what we might want and have started that process. So I think we would just be tweaking what they've already done. I don't think it would take too long.
I'll add to that a little bit. Laura Stoney and the foundation are very anxious to get those renderings because Laura believes, and I think rightly, that it'll make it a lot easier to raise money. Once people can actually see what we're proposing.
Yeah, Matthews was. They didn't say they needed to charge us extra to do that. All of those graphics are part of what they do when they do their design process. So they are happy to share that with us to use for fundraising.
Is this configuration to have a front door and a back door? Okay, so the door would come behind the passenger seat in the front.
Right. Yeah.
Is there chair accessible? I'm sorry.
You're breaking up a little bit, Jeff. Say that again.
I'll get closer.
Okay.
Is there wheelchair accessibility? Can we put a wheelchair.
Yes.
So
In fact, that they have now, the one that we have interior, and we have to have a bookcase built around it, and the new ones are actually underneath the door, and they'll slide out and go up. So it frees up that door in the back. It's just a regular flat door, so it's really nice. It frees up more room inside.
okay.
So if you can see the schematic, Jeff, so the first door for customers to enter is going to be here about. And then there's another door with steps that'll be here. And then the way that I think both code and building goes, they need a separate door for the wheelchair entrance. And so the wheelchair accessible entrance is here. And like Mike said, Mike and I stood around at ABOS about 2 years ago, Mike, a year and a half ago, something. And we've just watched the lift go up and down. They have some new style wheelchair lifts that are really nice. You know, they just slide out, go to the ground, pick you up, take you up to the level of the bookmobile. It's pretty slick.
Okay, good, good. Would that also be used to lift material into the bookmobile?
Sure, could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's for accessibility of all sorts. So
Right. Okay.
And it could be used for those rolling carts as well. You know, right now our drivers are carrying, you know, baskets of books that are very heavy, and they have to lift them upstairs that are very narrow in our current bookmobile. So having this lift will really, you know, alleviate some staff potential injuries. It makes me nervous, you know, carrying that much heavy weight. So the lift will be great for that feature as well. And having wider steps, you know, these pull out wider steps will really help. I mean, think about like our preschoolers, you know, I watch them struggle getting their little legs up our great big steep steps. These steps are much more comfortable for customers to use. And I realize now that I look at this picture, it's kind of tiny, but Heather, can you put the cursor over the book drop? That is one thing that our current bookmobile does not have, and Matthews did include in their bid. This book drop would have an exterior access. So thinking about right now, like as we quarantine materials, that means that staff is not having to handle any kind of returns. Customers could use that exterior drop. They slip it in there, their DVDs, their books, whatever they're returning. Then we can either quarantine it right there, or we can transfer it into Santori as appropriate. So that'll be a nice feature. And that'll be flexible, you know, whether we're in a pandemic or we're not.
Good.
When you add a slide out, is there any other type of leveling that has to be on the bus to keep it level, or does it just use the same wheels and such?
that's definitely a big question.
It's got a hydraulic leveling system. There are 4 cylinders with feet pads that go down and level it automatically, and then you're all set.
Okay. And does the current bus have a leveling system?
No.
I would like to check the warranty, because I know those leveling systems, once those things go bad, they're extremely expensive. I have some experience with RVs and such. So I would just make sure that leveling system is included, because that's a pretty big deal. And that if that doesn't work the way it should, it complicates things for you guys.
Okay.
With that slide out, does it compromise any of the interior space as far as taking up some of the space when it's in the stored position?
Not that I can tell. The walls are kind of accordion pleat in, if that makes sense.
Okay.
We
So-
wouldn't be able to put any weight on it, Jeff. They said that, you know, you cannot put the bookshelves or anything on the slide out. So we'd have to think about, you know, how that would be used. Maybe that's a place where a cart, you know, would just be kind of strapped in and can be removed easily, you know, once we need it.
Or we could use that space for a display wall or
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
So that's a decision we have to make, whether we want to do that slide out or not, and does it make sense? I can see the advantage of doing it, because now you have a little room you've established.
Yeah.
The downside is what you just said, is you can't use that wall for books. So other than if you have a portable cart or something in place. Why is the driver's door important? I'm missing that. You mentioned it a couple times.
Well, as we have it now, we have to go in and out through through one of the access doors on the opposite side. So you have to get up, walk down a little bit and make a left and go down. Whereas this is for fueling and such, that's on that side. So it's much easier. You open up and everything's right there. I think for safety, it's a good thing to have another door on that side as well.
Okay. So a safety issue and I mean, it's conventional to have a driver's door, but things like school buses and other buses don't have a driver's door. You just use the main access out the other way.
Right.
So
Keep in mind too, that our Bookmobile drivers are also working library staff. You know, they don't just drive the vehicle and then just sit there while everything else happens on the Bookmobile.
Right.
They participate in circulation functions and reader's advisory and crowd control and vomit cleanup and whatever else needs to happen, you know, on the Bookmobile. So having an efficient way for them to get in and out, I think is valuable.
okay.
In the proposal, is there, how many like AC units are there? Is there one main one on the top? Are there more than one?
There are three.
Three, okay.
This is Dee Basili. I have a question regarding the digital media access. We mentioned outside a 60-inch television, I think. Is that got a cover over it? How, or do you take it off, remove it and put it in when you're, I mean, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, good question, Dee. So these vehicles that Matthews build, they're all custom. They build the walls actually sort of, you know, from the bottom up. So what they do is they create a recessed area for the TV to sit in, and then they put an insulated door over it. So when you're ready to use the TV, you open that door to access the television. And when you're done, you just cover up and you get back on the road.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Now, because we have so much more technology involved with the back, what is it, the digital signage in the back? You mentioned it was in the back of the bus, right?
Right.
Okay. How much more is it going to be a month to run our Bookmobile?
Are you, for the digital, are you thinking like Wi-Fi cost, data
Yeah,
cost?
do we have an estimate on that? I know it's more environmental friendly, but I mean, in terms of, you know, to run it per month, we have an idea we know what we spend now per month on our, I mean, how much more would that be? Do we have an idea? I guess not, because we don't know all the things that we're going to be using, right? We're going to have help. And
Some of it we've had data on the Bookmobile. The difference will be on the new one that it'll be public too. So we might need to pay a little bit more for monthly data. But we're also, you know, that's new technology as well. And I don't know the details, but I know that IT is looking at ways to kind of, you know, spread that out, use the library's network a little bit more. You know, there might be a potential to work with some other partners on creating data spots. So we don't fully know yet, I guess.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You had talked about options and the slide out and the bubble machine. What other types of bells and whistles are there out there? Yeah, I heard you talk about different colored shelving, and I mean, you know, this is a one-time, you know, we got a big opportunity right now. And are there other things out there that maybe other libraries have, you know, options that they've utilized that we want to consider, or is this it?
I'm not sure about bells and whistles, but one thing I did forget to mention was that at the conference, the Matthews presentation talked about an air purification system that runs through the existing air conditioning units. So there's not like a standalone air purifier on the vehicle. And that's something that they are now starting to put into their vehicles. So at the time of this bid, it was not included, but that may be something that we want to look into, because whether, you know, we're in our current situation or not, it's good to have good airflow and healthy air that we're all breathing. I don't know about other bells and whistles. Heather, are you aware of anything else that maybe we didn't put in there?
I'm thinking, well, you know, some of the newer bookmobiles coming out now, there's like there are a few options to do all electric. Using solar power for at least lights and accessories is something that libraries are looking at. Those are some of the newer things that are out there. I mean, each vehicle is custom, so I've seen lots of variations on how to build a bookmobile over the last few years.
Heather, I'm kind of thinking about, I'm sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, is there an awning on this particular bookmobile?
Yep.
What about, is there a potential, you see this is pretty common now with this outdoor vehicles, to do exterior TVs?
Right, we've got
Right.
up to 60-inch television on the exterior.
Okay, so that is on the exterior, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So,
There's a PA system as well.
right.
And you know, LED lights that you can change, I think we've got that in there. You can change the colors of and do sort of mini light shows with. Speakers on the outside so we can play our library playlist in a parade.
We do have 4 solar panels included in that bid with a battery charging system.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility to do a hybrid? You mentioned all electric, but
Mike and I talked to a couple of, at least one person who's done the hybrid. You want to talk a little bit more about that, Mike, and where we're at with hybrid, just the technology that's available?
Sure. There's one system that was recommended. It's an Odine, and what it is it's a separate drive system that is linked to a PTO to the current one that you can switch on and off. And what it does is when you're driving, it charges up a battery bank.
okay.
And so that when you stop, you can run your AC units and your computers and your lighting
Okay.
without having to run the generator. The generator is a backup, but when you're driving it, this system charges the battery bank, and then you're able to run all your accessories when you're at your stop without having to run the generator. This is something that is fairly new, but it can be added on, retrofitted to almost any vehicle. And so as they develop it more and it gets, you know, work all the bugs out of it, it's something that's a possibility even down the road if we decide to do that.
So this
The only
wouldn't,
vehicle I've seen it on is not the bus-based vehicle. It was, what do they call those vans, Mike? The big
Step
vans. Step vans,
step-
yes, thank you. Those chassis for those types of trucks don't allow for a third seat in the back. There were some complications for us for the way we run book stop or bookmobile stops with going with that platform. So we didn't opt for the hybrid to begin with, but Mike's right. That's something we're keeping an eye on.
And maybe a possibility for the next mini B or
Yeah,
delivery.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
and the big advantage of that would be that you wouldn't have to idle at a stop. You could turn off the bookmobile and just use the battery.
Correct.
We wouldn't have to run a generator all the time. The generator would be a backup instead of something we'd have to turn on at every stop.
Right. Okay, good. One thing that surprised me in the quote was that the carts are so expensive. Why is that?
They're aluminum, they're super lightweight, they're super special. They are very nice carts. We have one.
Okay.
Can I
Staff love
add,
it.
can I add something here? All book carts are expensive. They're
Yeah.
all ridiculous. But it's a small market. It's a specialty item. We're the only libraries are the only people in the world that buy book carts. So they kind of have us.
Okay, but
They,
And
do they last a long time.
They do. they're very sturdy, and Acor really stands behind. They have great customer service as well. They build them all themselves.
But that's something we really would like to have so that we can load the books up in the cart and then just wheel it out, take it up through the wheelchair lift or the lift, and just make it much more efficient and much easier to do with nice carts.
Right. We
And
could
they have,
purchase just regular book carts, but the price would not be substantially less.
right. And they have half carts fastened to the wall. So you can load them, wheel them in, and clip them right onto the wall.
Right. Okay. Good. That gets into another question I had. Maybe it's related, maybe not, but would we reconfigure the way we use the shelves by different stops? For example, set it up to go to a school and have it in certain configuration and then change it if we're going to go to a community stop?
That was our thinking behind requesting those cards, Jeff. You know, we do schools in the morning usually and community stops in the afternoon. And if we have several of those carts, or a few of those carts even, that can swap in and out, staff can prep for the day, do a quick stop at the library, swap those carts out, and go on to the afternoon. So
And all the shelves are modular as well. You know, you can have them for larger books, smaller books. You can move them around, switch them around. And one other thing about on the slide out, you can't put weight on it and slide it out. But when it's in, you can have rails for bookshelves, and you can actually put books on those shelves where that slide out is when it's parked. You just can't have the weight on it when you're deploying it.
It's slid out. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go to school and do a program, you just wouldn't have books in that spot. Slide it
Yeah.
out. Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Hey guys, I had one question. I know we were talking about digital media access, but did we also think, or did you address the idea of actually having public computers within the space? I know we would have Wi-Fi, but that would be something also that we would throw in there for in terms of bells and whistles, right?
right, that's why we want to go with the slide out, because we'd like to do something kind of like what they showed here, where when you slide out that extra space, you can set up a desk area and have computers for people to use.
Thanks.
Tom, it would probably be more laptops or iPads, because maybe customers even want to bring their own laptop and just have a place to sit and maybe print something, or just, you know, use our Wi-Fi service. So we just wanted to make sure that that's versatile.
All right, are there any other questions at this point regarding the proposal?
Just one, and it's maybe more comparing the different companies. We didn't talk very much about Summit, and their bid came in substantially less. They were lacking as far as things that they provided. Is that correct?
Right, when Jessica did that line by line analysis of our requests versus their proposal, there were several elements that just didn't make it on their list. Jessica, do you have those notes handy for what we were missing with Summit again?
I do. They were missing the driver's door. Their steps were like our current steps, which cut into the vehicle. They didn't like deploy outside the vehicle. So we thought that's a huge thing just in terms of space and in terms of, you know, customer accessibility to the vehicle. They did not have any backup camera, a collision avoidance system, the digital readout board on the back, and the spare tire with the wheel.
Okay.
And I think they, if I remember right, they specified an exterior television, but not an interior screen, if that's right.
They did specify the two televisions. They were substantially smaller. And the insulation too, we were concerned, we weren't able to get, you know, much information about the insulation, and in terms of our climate, you know, we were concerned about that.
Okay.
One of the advantages too that we liked about Matthews is, for instance, with Summit, they're starting with basically a shell and adding on, whereas Matthews starts from the ground up and they build it custom. Their wall studs are closer. Their flooring, the metal is thicker. It's basically a custom made. They're not, like I said, they're not adding on to an existing shell.
Okay, so they build it up from the ground up, as you mentioned.
Correct. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, is that kind of all the questions everyone has at this point?
Yes.
All right, I think based on your guys' recommendation, may I have a motion and a second to recommend that the full board accept the proposal submitted by Matthews Specialty Vehicles for construction of a new bookmobile?
Motion made.
I make that motion.
John, I'll just have you second it.
Okay.
All right, Kim, would you please call the roll?
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
John Savage,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right, and
And I just want to make a quick comment. When I think of this, and being the guy that's been on the board the longest, I think of Joanne Thorpe, who for our current bookmobile was a strong advocate and just pushed getting our current bookmobile. So I just want to acknowledge her thoughts and her vision for continuing the bookmobile, because at a time we were deciding whether we wanted to do it or not, and she was such a strong advocate of that. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That.
were there any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, I think there being no further business before the board at this time, I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 10:04 a.m.
Motion made.
All right, that was Dee Basili to second it. Kim, would you call the roll?
Dee Basili,
Yes.
Jeff Butler,
Yes.
John Savage,
Yes.
Andrew Smith.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you for all your work getting this together, guys.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for everybody.
Oh,
being so well
excellent
informed.
job.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye all.